My goth foxgirl roommate. Sparks fly as I start falling for her charm. Midnight encounters. Dante Rivera had never imagined his life would lead him to a cramped third-floor apartment in Ashenmore, a coastal city perpetually wrapped in fog and mystery. At 26, he'd lost his photography studio to rising rent costs and a business partner who disappeared with half their savings. Now, with his camera equipment crammed into duffel bags and his pride thoroughly bruised, he stood outside apartment 13C, key in hand, wondering what fresh disaster awaited him inside. The door swung open before he could knock, revealing a figure that made his breath catch. Raven Ashford stood in the doorway, backlit by purple string lights that cast her in an ethereal glow. Her charcoal grey fur seemed to shimmer in the dim light, and her amber eyes studied him with an intensity that made him feel simultaneously exposed and intrigued. Pointed fox ears twitched atop her head, and 3 sleek tails swished behind her, moving with a hypnotic rhythm. "You're late," she said, her voice like velvet draped over steel. She wore a flowing black lace dress that brushed her ankles, layered silver necklaces, and dark purple lipstick that somehow made her look both dangerous and beautiful. "I'm sorry," Dante managed, shifting his heavy bags. "Traffic was." "I'm joking. Come in before you drop everything." Raven stepped aside, and as Dante stumbled forward, his camera bag caught on the doorframe. The contents scattered across the hardwood floor with a cacophony of clattering equipment. "Smooth entrance," she deadpanned, but her tails were already moving, carefully nudging his lenses away from rolling toward the stairs. As they both bent to gather his belongings, one of her tails accidentally swept his hand. The soft fur against his skin sent an unexpected warmth through him. "Welcome to your new home, photographer boy," Raven said, handing him his favorite camera with surprising gentleness. "Try not to break anything else tonight." Dante looked around at the apartment, vintage horror novels stacked like towers, flickering candles on every surface, the scent of lavender incense hanging in the air, and realized his predictable life had just taken a very interesting turn. Walls began to crack. The first week passed in careful orbit. Dante kept to his minimalist side of the apartment. White walls, simple furniture, organized shelves. Raven's domain was a shrine to darkness and beauty. Velvet curtains, antique mirrors with ornate frames, and constellation maps marked with silver pins. They crossed paths like polite strangers, exchanging nods and half-smiles before retreating to their separate worlds. Then the small gestures began. Dante woke one Thursday morning to find a steaming mug of dark roast coffee on the kitchen counter, accompanied by a still-warm blackberry scone wrapped in parchment paper. A note in elegant script read, "You mentioned loving dark roast. Don't read into it." "Ah." He smiled despite himself. That afternoon, he ventured into the misty streets with his camera, capturing the Gothic architecture Raven seemed to love. Gargoyles shrouded in fog, iron gates wrapped in dying ivy, the way street lamps cast long shadows across cobblestone streets. He left the printed photographs on her bedroom door without a word. The next evening, he found 3 more scones. Their first real conversation happened on a rain-soaked Sunday. Dante discovered Raven curled on the couch, surrounded by blankets, watching an old black-and-white vampire film. Her ears were perked forward in concentration, tails draped across the cushions. "Mind if I join?" he asked, surprising himself. Her amber eyes flicked to him, then back to the screen. "It's your couch too." He settled at the opposite end, maintaining respectful distance. But as the film progressed, he noticed everything. How her ears twitched adorably during tense scenes, how one tail curled slightly when she was absorbed in the story, how she hugged a skull-shaped pillow without seeming to realize it. "Why do you love this stuff so much?" Dante asked during a quiet scene. "The darkness, I mean. The Gothic aesthetic." Raven paused, her tail stilling completely. "People see me and make assumptions. The dark fur, the alternative style, they think I'm trying to be scary or difficult." She pulled her knees to her chest. "But I'm not performing darkness. It's just who I am. There's beauty in shadows that most people refuse to see." "I see it," Dante said softly. "Your beauty, I mean. The way you arrange things, the care you put into your space. It's artistic." Her ears flattened slightly, a gesture he was learning meant vulnerability. "You're different than I expected, photographer boy." "Dante," he corrected gently. Dante, she repeated, and somehow his name sounded like poetry in her voice. They watched 3 more films that night, and with each passing hour, the space between them on the couch grew smaller. The storm that changed everything. The storm arrived on a Wednesday night with the fury of the sea itself. Wind howled against the windows like a living thing, and rain hammered the roof in sheets. Dante was editing photos when every light in the apartment died, plunging them into absolute darkness. Dante! Raven's voice called from her room, uncharacteristically uncertain. I'm here. Stay put, I'll find candles. He navigated by memory to the kitchen, fumbling through drawers until his fingers found matches. Soon, flickering candlelight transformed their apartment into something from one of Raven's beloved films, all dancing shadows and warm amber pools of light. Raven emerged wrapped in an oversized black sweater, her fur slightly fluffed from the cold. Power company says it could be 2 days. The whole coastal grid is down. Then we'd better make the best of it. Dante gestured to the living room floor, where he'd already spread blankets and pillows. Emergency sleepover. They cooked pasta on the gas stove, laughing as they bumped into each other in the small kitchen. Raven's tails kept accidentally brushing against him, and each touch sent pleasant shivers down his spine. They played cards by candlelight, shared stories from their childhoods, and somewhere around midnight, the conversation turned deeper. I've never felt like I belonged anywhere, Raven admitted, her amber eyes reflecting the candle flames. Even among other demi-humans, I was too dark, too intense, too much. People either fetishize what I am or fear it. Nobody just sees me. Dante set down his cards, giving her his full attention. I know that feeling. After my ex left, after my business partner betrayed me, I stopped letting anyone close. It felt safer to be alone than risk that pain again. Is that why you moved here? To hide? Maybe. Or maybe to start over. He met her gaze. I'm glad the universe put you in my path, Raven. Thunder cracked overhead, making them both jump. In the chaos of reaching for blankets to block the window draft, one of Raven's tails wrapped instinctively around Dante's wrist. They both froze. The tail didn't unwrap. Her fur was impossibly soft against his skin, warm and alive. Dante's thumb gently stroked along its length, and Raven's breath hitched. Dante. She whispered. Is this okay? His voice was barely audible over the storm. Instead of answering with words, her other 2 tails slowly curled around his arm, drawing him closer. Their faces were inches apart now, candlelight painting them both in gold and shadow. I think I've been falling for you since you tripped over my tails that first night, she confessed, her ears flat against her head in shy vulnerability. Then I've been falling since I saw you backlit in purple lights, looking like the most beautiful contradiction I'd ever seen. The storm raged on outside, but inside, surrounded by candlelight and the soft cocoon of her tails, they stayed wrapped together until dawn, talking and laughing and building something precious between them. Crossing the line. The days following the storm felt different, charged with unspoken possibility. Dante found himself noticing everything, the way Raven hummed while making coffee, how her tails swished faster when she was happy, the soft smile she wore when she thought he wasn't looking. The apartment that once felt like shared territory between strangers now felt like a cocoon where something beautiful was taking shape. Small gifts began appearing. Dante left a silver moon pendant on Raven's nightstand, its crescent shape reminding him of her profile in candlelight. She wore it every day after, her fingers unconsciously touching it when she was nervous. Raven started pressing black roses and nightshade flowers, framing them in antique frames she'd place on his desk, dark beauty preserved forever, just like the photographs he took of the city's shadows. Her appearance softened around him too. The harsh dark lipstick gave way to softer purples and deep wines. She wore her hair down more often, letting it fall across her shoulders in waves. Her tail seemed constantly drawn to him, brushing his legs when they cooked together, curling around his chair when they watched films. One evening, Dante gathered his courage. Raven, I have a photography project I'm working on. Midnight portraits on the pier. Would you model for me? Her amber eyes widened. Me? You're the most photogenic person I've ever met. And I want to capture you the way I see you, beautiful, mysterious, real. He paused, his heart hammering. Not as my roommate. As my date. Her ears flattened in that vulnerable way he'd learned to recognize, but her tails curled excitedly. Midnight on the pier sounds perfectly Gothic. It's a date, Dante. The pier was transformed at night. String lights crisscrossed overhead like captured stars, and the ocean crashed against the pylons with rhythmic power. Raven wore a flowing black dress that caught the wind, her fur illuminated by the warm lights, looking like a dream made solid. Dante barely took any photos. He couldn't stop staring at her, the way she moved, the confidence in her stance, the vulnerability in her eyes when she looked back at him. Are you going to take pictures, or just admire me all night? She teased, but her voice was breathless. Can't I do both? He set his camera down and walked to her, the space between them crackling with tension. Raven, I need you to know something. These past weeks with you have been the best of my life. You've made me feel alive again, like I can trust again, like maybe darkness isn't something to fear, she finished softly. Exactly. His hand reached up, gently cupping her face. Her fur was soft as silk beneath his palm. You're extraordinary. Dante. Her ears flattened completely, her eyes searching his. You're the first person who's ever seen past the surface. Who looked at me and saw someone worth knowing, not just something exotic or frightening. I see you, Raven Ashford. All of you. And I'm completely, hopelessly falling for you. Her tails wrapped around his waist, pulling him closer. Then stop talking and kiss me, photographer boy. Their lips met under the string lights, soft and tentative at first, then deepening as weeks of tension finally released. His hands slid into her hair while her tails coiled around them both protectively, possessively. She tasted like blackberries and midnight promises. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, the world felt fundamentally changed. Take me home, she whispered against his lips. They walked back through the foggy streets hand in hand, her head on his shoulder, knowing everything between them had irrevocably shifted into something beautiful and real. Home found in each other. 3 months transformed their apartment from a shared space into a true home. Dante's minimalist aesthetic softened with touches of Raven's darkness, purple accent pillows, framed pressed flowers, candles on his desk. Her domain welcomed splashes of his light, his photographs on her walls, plants by her window, the coffee maker always ready with dark roast. Mornings became sacred rituals. Dante would wake to find Raven already in the kitchen, preparing elaborate breakfasts while still wearing his oversized shirts. He'd photograph her in the soft morning light streaming through the windows, capturing the way her fur glowed golden, how her tail swished contentedly as she cooked. She'd caught him once and tackled him onto the couch, both of them laughing until she silenced him with kisses that tasted like maple syrup and promises. Their evenings were filled with shared adventures. They attended underground Gothic concerts where Raven knew every band, her body pressed against his as they swayed to dark electronic beats. They explored abandoned buildings at dusk, Dante photographing while Raven told him ghost stories that made her eyes shine with mischief. They spent quiet nights curled together on their worn couch, her reading Victorian horror novels while he edited photos, her tails draped across his lap like living blankets. Tonight was one of those quiet evenings. Rain pattered against the windows as an old vampire film played unwatched on the television. Raven was tucked against Dante's chest, his arms wrapped securely around her, one hand gently stroking through her fur. Her 3 tails were wound around them both, creating a cocoon of warmth and belonging. Dante. Her voice was soft, vulnerable in the way she only allowed with him. Do you ever regret it? Moving here, ending up with me as your roommate? He tilted her chin up to meet her amber eyes, seeing the insecurity that still lingered beneath her confident exterior. Raven Ashford, meeting you was the best accident of my entire life. You taught me that beauty exists in shadows, that being vulnerable isn't weakness, that love can bloom in the most unexpected places. Her ears flattened sweetly. You're the first person who loved all of me, the darkness, the strangeness, everything society says is too much. You made me feel like I could be myself without apology. You taught me to embrace the beauty in darkness, Dante said, pressing a kiss to her forehead. To see that the most extraordinary things in life often come wrapped in shadows. Raven shifted, straddling his lap, her hands framing his face. I love you, Dante Rivera. My photographer, my home, my light in the darkness. I love you, Raven Ashford. My beautiful contradiction, my Gothic dream, my everything. Their kiss was slow and deep, filled with promise and certainty. Outside, the rain continued its steady rhythm, but inside, two souls who'd felt lost and misunderstood had finally found their home in each other's arms. Later, as they slow danced in the living room to no music at all, just the sound of rain and heartbeats, Dante understood a fundamental truth. Sometimes the most beautiful love stories begin with a stumble at a doorway, a scattered camera bag, and the gentle brush of soft tails against uncertain hands. Sometimes home isn't a place at all. It's the person who sees every shadow within you and chooses to stay anyway, wrapped in darkness and light together. 4 lines of lesson. True love sees beyond appearances and embraces every shadow and light within a soul, recognizing that what society calls too much is often exactly enough for the right person. The deepest connections are built on patience, small kindnesses, and the courage to be vulnerable with someone who proves themselves worthy of that trust. Home is not a place but the person who accepts you completely, darkness, strangeness, and all, without asking you to dim your authentic self. Sometimes the most beautiful romances bloom in the quiet moments between two misunderstood hearts finding each other, proving that love grows strongest when planted in the soil of genuine acceptance and watered with daily acts of devotion.